Hi viewers, in this video we will dive into the movie Aladdin 2019. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens on the sea where a mariner played by Will Smith, is sailing with his wife and two children, Umar and Leon. He starts to tell the children a tale of a street rat, a princess, and a magic lamp. The kid asks that he sign since he tells story better that way, and so he proceeds and takes us to the kingdom of Agrabah. Somewhere outside the city, the evil sorcerer Jafar and his parrot Lago are standing outside the cave of wonders, waiting for their pawn to go in and retrieve a treasure. But the cave rejects all those that it finds unworthy, but burying them deep into the sand until it has found the diamond in the rough. In Agrabah's marketplace, we meet Aladdin, played by Mena Massoud, who lives alone with his pet monkey Abu, played by Frank Walker, and gets by through being sneaky and taking what he can get. He pawns off a small atom to get a bag of dates, but he gives it to a family who needs food more than he does. Elsewhere in the market, Princess Jasmine, disguised as a commoner, takes some food from a stand and gives it to small children. The shop owner attempts to punish Jasmine for it until Aladdin intervenes and uses Jasmine's bracelet as a payment for the food. However, he swipes the bracelet back instantly and switches it out before the owner finds out and sends the police guards after Aladdin. One jump ahead, the song is played. He and Jasmine run through the market until they evade the guards and reach Aladdin's hideout, where he has a great view of the city. Aladdin expresses a desire to leave his grand position, while Jasmine, still not revealing who she is, also wishes for freedom. When they go back down to the market, Jasmine tries to leave but doesn't have her bracelet since Abu took it. She is upset because it was her mother's bracelet, and she leaves after calling Aladdin a thief. Moments later, guards on horses enter the place and almost knock over some children before Aladdin steps in and insults one of the guards. He retaliates by telling Aladdin he is nothing more than a street rat who will die alone. Dejected, Aladdin returns home. Upon her return to the palace, Jasmine and her father, the Sultan, meet Prince Anders of Scanland, a potential suitor for Jasmine. She scares him off with her pet tiger Raja, although the Sultan is frustrated with Jasmine rejecting suitors since Scanland could have been a valuable ally. She doesn't want someone chosen to marry her, as she is more interested in ruling the kingdom and making necessary changes to Agrabah so that she can help people. Meanwhile, Jafar, who is the Sultan Vizier, wants to convince him to use their armies to evade the kingdom of Sherabad, which is where Jasmine's mother is from. Jafar attempts to use his snake staffs to hypnotize the Sultan, but it doesn't work after Jasmine comes in and the Sultan tells Jafar to stay in his place. Not long after, Logo draws Jafar's attention to Aladdin coming into the palace. Aladdin sneaks past the guards to try and return Jasmine's bracelet, still thinking she is just a handmaiden, while her best friend and actual handmaiden Dahlia is the actual princess. Jasmine has to send Aladdin away, but he promised to return the night next. He is caught by Jafar and the guards, but Jafar talks to Aladdin and tries to appeal to him by showing him that he was a former street rat himself who rose to power. He also tells Aladdin that Jasmine is the princess and that he can help him be rich enough to impress her. Aladdin asks what he has to do. Jafar brings Aladdin and Abu to the Cave of Wonders to retrieve a simple lamp. But the cave warns Aladdin not to touch anything but the lamp. He enters, and although he and Abu get tempted, they focus on getting the lamp. They even find a magic carpet and free it to help them find it. Sure enough, the lamp is at the top of a rocky hill. Aladdin climbs to reach it, but Abu accidentally grabs a ruby that falls. The cave then attempts to trap Aladdin and Abu there as it starts to crumble and turn to lava around him. Carpet helps Aladdin and Abu reach the exit, but when he asks for Jafar's help, he only takes the lamp and attempts to kill Aladdin. Abu attacks Jafar before he and Aladdin get trapped in the cave. Jafar thinks he is victorious until he checks his pockets to find that the lamp is gone, and he screams in fury. In the cave, Aladdin tries to find a way out. He wonders that the big deal over the lamp was until he rubs it and summons a great blue powerful genie. He explained to Aladdin in song his powers and the ability to grant Aladdin, his new master, 3 wishes. Aladdin grants Genie to get them out of the cave, but since he didn't rub the lamp when he made the wish, it didn't count and was basically a freebie. Aladdin also asked Genie what he would wish for, and he admitted that he would love to be free and did not have to grant any more wishes. Aladdin promises to use his 3rd wish to free Genie. Aladdin then thinks that he can use his 1st wish to make himself a prince to win over Jasmine and be able to marry her. Genie says there is a grey area in that wish, but he eventually agrees to give Aladdin a princely makeover, turn Abu into an elephant to carry him, and then assemble a whole entourage for the new prince, Prince Ali of Abwa. Aladdin, Genie, and the magically conjured Awabans enter Agrabah and put on a grand display for everyone to be won over. The Sultan lets them into the palace, and Aladdin is brought to meet Jasmine, who does not recognize him as the prince. When trying to make an offer for Jasmine's hand, she takes offense as Aladdin is making it seem like she is a prize to be won and she just embraces himself. Later, a party is held where Aladdin once again tries to woo Jasmine with Genie help, this time with him using his powers to make Aladdin dance well, but Jasmine is not fully won over. Genie tells Aladdin to just be himself, but he thinks he needs to do something bigger. He uses Genie as a distraction since he and Dahlia have eyes for one another, and Aladdin uses carpet to get him to Jasmine's room. Raja appears to like Aladdin just fine, but it is not until Aladdin shows Jasmine carpet and says the words, "Do you trust me?" which he told her when they first met. But she agrees to join him. They ride carpet across the city to see how beautiful it is, a whole new world. As they sit atop carpet over the city, Jasmine tricks Aladdin into revealing who he really is, but he pretends that he was just disguised as a commoner as well. Afterward, Aladdin returns Jasmine home and they have their first kiss. Next morning, an eager Aladdin tries to visit Jasmine, but he is caught by Jafar and guards again. Jafar knows who Prince Ali is and wants to prove that he has the lamp by pushing him off a ledge and into the ocean to see if Genie will help him survive. Abu and Carpet see this and rush to bring Aladdin the lamp. He wraps it but loses consciousness before he can wish himself out of there. Genie bends the rules by getting Aladdin to sign a wish contract that accounts as his 2nd wish to save him. After revive Aladdin, they find Jasmine, Sultan, and Jafar and try to expose him for his crimes. But Aladdin sees that Jafar is controlling the Sultan with his staff, So he swipes it and smashes it to show the Sultan who Jafar really is. He has Jafar imprisoned for his crimes, but Lago manages to get the keys to free him. Aladdin tells Genie that he has to break his promise to free him and use his third wish to maintain the Prince Ali rules if he wants to stay with Jasmine. Hurt, Genie retreats into his lamp. Later, as Aladdin is walking through the streets, a disgusted Jafar swipes the lamp off of him and now becomes Genie's new master. For his first wish, he goes to the palace throne room and uses Genie to become Sultan in front of everyone. He even gets the Sultan's loyal captain of the guards, Hakim, to turn on him as he is made to serve the Sultan. Jasmine then appeals to Hakim since he has known their family since he was a boy and was loyal to them. He quickly switches allegiances again, so Jafar uses his second wish to become the world's most powerful sorcerer. He exposes Aladdin for who he really is before banishing him to the ends of the earth. He then forces Jasmine to marry him or else he will kill her father and Dahlia. Jasmine reluctantly agrees but refuses to let herself be put down as a result. Aladdin wakes up in an area covered in ice and snow. He spots Abu trapped in a crevice and goes to rescue him, and Genie sends Carpet to rescue the two. They head back to Agrabah where Jasmine is about to go through with the Kermani to marry Jafar until she spots Aladdin and Abu riding on Carpet and steals the lamp from Jafar to join them. Jafar uses his powers to turn Lago into a monstrous bus to chase after them and get the lamp back. But Sultan pushes the staff out of Jafar's hands so that Lago goes back to normal, and Abu has the lamp. Jafar manages to overpower everyone and trap them, even destroying Carpet, before boasting about his power. However, Aladdin tells Jafar that he will always only be second best to Genie since he gave him his powers and can take them away just as easily. Jafar then decided to use his third wish to become the most powerful being in the universe. Genie granted him the wish and Jafar tries to use his new power to attack Sherabad. But now that he is also Genie, he is bound to his own lamp and he gets sucked into it. Lago attempts to escape but Jafar pulls him in too. Genie then tosses the lamp all the way back to the Cave of Wonders and then repairs Carpet. Everything goes back to normal, and although Genie is prepared to go back inside the lamp after Aladdin's last wish, Aladdin surprises him by actually wishing for Genie's freedom. This turns him human and relinquishes his powers for good. He hugs Aladdin and then offers to seal the thwart with Dahlia, who is later revealed to be his wife after he becomes the mariner. Aladdin and Abu start to leave the city, and the Sultan tells Jasmine that he thinks she is ready to rule, so he possesses on the title to her so that she can be free to rule and marry who she wants. She turns into the city to catch Aladdin and they kiss. Aladdin and Jasmine are later married with Genie and Dahlia by their side. All of Agrabah celebrates while Abu takes Carpet for another ride. The box office performance of the movie Aladdin. Walt Disney's live-action remake of Aladdin earned a Buffo 9 million Friday Sunday and 113 million Friday Monday Memorial Day weekend debut. It will end tonight with as much as 265 million worldwide. Whether you like the movie or not, there are two distinct lessons worth nothing. First, on-screen diversity is an asset, and anyone who thought that Fox here and abroad would not show up for a blockbuster fronted mostly by Middle Eastern and Indian actors in spite of or because of that demographic makeup were bloating themselves. Second, everyone who thought the endless online hand-wringing and manufactured controversies would move the needle were just as delusional. They are just complaint almost from the word go. Some understandable Guy Ritchie coming off two big flops to get a mega budget blockbuster about Middle Eastern heroes. And some more absurd, there are outcry based on a single Hollywood Reporter article that claimed Disney has having challenges finding Middle East and or Asian leads of the movie. Days later, during the annual Day 23 convention, they announced that Mena Massoud and Naomi Scott would be playing Aladdin and Jasmine. Scott is no shocker if you have seen Power Rangers, more than up to the task, and Massoud was a charismatic delight. There had been, oh no, though Disney is gonna cast Tom Hardy as Jafar. Rumblings as well. The Guy Ritchie flick still ended up with Marwan Kenzari, who is perfectly fine if a bit underused. He needed a song. The internet lost its mind when Billy Magnus was cast as a new character because the most logical conclusion was not that it was a glorified cameo as one of Jasmine's rejected suitors, but that Disney was changing the story and letting the white guy marry the princess in the end. Huge spoiler, sorry William, but Princess Anderson amount to a 120 seconds cameo and does not marry Princess Jasmine at the end. When the first look at Will Smith's Genie in human form debuted, the movie star had to take to Twitter and ensure fans that yes, he would be blue and otherworldly during much of the movie. When we got our first look at the Genie in his normal form via a TV commercial, the internet mocked it almost unto death. Yet this weekend journal audience, kids and adults alike, showed up in droves around the world, at least partially because Will Smith is offering a flashy star's turn as a very popular character in an anticipated motion picture. Smith's performance has received mostly positive notice because, well, he's a good actor who generally shows what he is going. I'm surely missing a couple controversies, but you get the idea. Despite years of handwriting, the movies opened its past weekend to overwhelming positive audience feedback and best case scenario box office. Some folks went because of the source material, some went because of Will Smith, and some want to see an all too rare mega budget fancy blockbuster featuring black and brown faced actors in every major starring and supporting role. More on the no matter the reason they showed up. As much as I talk about how the trolls don't reflect the majority opinion or affect the financial outcome of movies like Black Panther or Wonder Woman, the diameter opposite is true as well. The online head rigging about the alleged problematics found in the like of La La Land, Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book are three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri didn't move the needle one bit in terms of what general moviegoers thought of those films or whether or not they became hits or won Oscars. Ditto for problematic blockbusters like Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, American Sniper, The Twilight Saga or The Blind Side. The trolls didn't sink Captain Marvel and the social justice warriors didn't sink Aladdin. A film Twitter presented the general public Roma or Blacklism would have won Best Picture and Paddington 2 would have earned 1 billion worldwide. Oh, and Poor Book Smart would have saw again open a lot better this weekend too. If journal audience decide that they want to see an upcoming movie for whatever reason, they will probably show up. Unless the viewers state that the film is both terrible and lacking in the components audience want from a given movie, they'll show up. The worst Transformer fans tended to note that they still contain all of the bombastic action spectacle, sun-squatted visuals, bawdy humor, and borderline Lucci associated with the franchise, so those bands read the recommendation to fans. D2 a 007 movie like Spectre, just it's a 200 million James Bond movie with all the fixings, or a flashy mercenary biopic like Bohemian Rhapsody, yes, it's an energetic and a big scale juice box musical about Queen. Aladdin flying past $1 billion at worldwide box office. Disney's live-action Aladdin is crossing the $1 billion worldwide box office mark, becoming the 41st title do so, Disney announced Friday. It's also the fifth Disney-branded live-action release to do so alongside Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, and the second and fourth Pirates of the Caribbean films. Aladdin joins Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man Far From Home as the 2019 releases that have gone past $1 billion. Disney Marvel's Avengers Endgame splendid Avatar last weekend as the top all-time grosser at 2.79 billion. Aladdin has taken in $343.1 million domestically and $656 million internationally, led by $98 million in Japan, $81 million in Korea, $53 million in China, and $45 million in UK. Aladdin opened with $117 million over the Memorial Day holiday and easily outperformed Disney's pre-opening domestic projections, which were in the 75 million to 85 million range for the 4 days. It also underlined the validity of the studio's strategy for rebooting its animated classics such as Beauty and the Beast and The Jungle Book. In this case, it remade the original 1992 animated movie with Mena Massoud as Aladdin, Will Smith as the Genie, Naomi Scott as Jasmine, and Marwan as Jafar. Guy Ritchie's director. Producers are Dan Lin and Jonathan Erich of Right Back. It's the first billion-dollar movie for Smith and Ritchie. Aladdin is a bigger box office success than expected. Aladdin was always projected to win the box office over Memorial Day weekend, but it became a much bigger hit than anticipated. The latest in Disney's recent started of live-action remake of their animated classics, Aladdin prospect seems a bit shaky during the build-up to its release. With the film generating controversy, early marketing material didn't go much to inspire confidence. Particularly the looks at Will Smith Genie. Fans expresses concern with the CGI fix and feared Aladdin was a train wreck waiting to happen. It also didn't help matters that after consecutive hits in the form of Cinderella, The Jungle Book, and Beauty and the Beast, Disney's live-action remake sub-franchises encountered in its snake with Tim Burton's Dumbo. That movie didn't fare well at the box office, bringing in $112 million domestically for its entire run. But that could have been a sign of diminishing interest in Disney's reimagining proved to be a fluke as Aladdin went on to become a massive hit. In the US, Aladdin made $112 million over the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, nearly equaling Dumbo's total, which is good enough for the 5th highest opening in the holiday's history. As of this, it's made $233 million worldwide, already making back its $183 million production budget. For a movie that at one point was expected to earn just $75 million for the extended Memorial Day frame, this was quite an accomplishment. Aladdin still has a ways to go before it reaches its break-even point, which should be around $366 million. But it seems likely it will clear that mark and then some. Even if it doesn't hold on to the top spot this weekend, Godzilla King of the Monsters should win. Aladdin is still a hit family film and should have decent legs as the calendar flips into June. Word of mouth is solid and those positive reviews came to the surprise of many. Granted, the 2019 Aladdin could not capture the awe-inspiring magic of the 1992 animated original, but it was still seen by many as a fun movie worth seeing in theaters. Not to mention the 92 Aladdin is one of the most popular titles of Disney's famed Renaissance period, so there was a built-in fan base curious to see a new version of the legendary tale. A key factor that played into Aladdin's success is competition. For a paralong sketch, Avenger Endgame was the talk of the town, racking up $2 billion in the blink of an eye. Even the well-received Detective Pikachu got lost in its shadow, tallying $120 million domestically so far. By The time Aladdin came out, there was a demand for a new blockbuster and it filled the void. It goes without saying that it will be going up against some high profile films in the next few weeks, but it got off to a great start due to ideal timing, and this will only reaffirm Disney's strategy to remake their classic in-house title for a new generation, and bodes well for The Lion King later this July. Aladdin could have been a repeat of last year's Memorial Day for Disney, the infamous solo disaster, but it gave the Mouse House reason to celebrate. Aladdin scores at the US box office. We hope Mr. Vic enjoys this one week stay at the top of the box office charts in the States. As Disney came a calling to retake its place, Aladdin, the latest animated to live action adaptation for the Mouse House, earned $112 billion across the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, according the studio estimated. Worldwide, the film has now hit more than 233 million, taking advantage of holiday time in other countries, including our own aspiring bank holiday. John Wick Chapter 3, meanwhile, only fell around 45%, taking in $31 million and handily crossing the 100 million mark for a $107 million domestic total. It has now achieved the highest gross to date of any of the three films, and it's no surprise that a fourth is already at the planning stage for a 2021 release. Avengers Endgame was pushed to third, adding 22.3 million ahead of Detective Pikachu in fourth with $17.25 million. You have to dig down to fifth place to find the weekend's second new arrival, as horror-inflected tale Brightburn launches with a disappointing 9.5 million, through with a low $6 million budget. It doesn't have to do a lot to start making a profit. Booksmart, which really deserves to be doing better, landed in sixth place with Olivia Wilde's directorial debut taking home $8.6 million. A Dog's Journey slipped to seventh, making $5.5 million, while The Hustle dropped to 8 on $4.7 million. Then Trotter took $2.9 million in ninth, while Longshot was down to 10th at $2.1 billion. Aladdin scores top 5 Memorial Day opening weekend at box office. Aladdin outperformed expectations and earned one of the best Memorial Day weekend of all time at the domestic box office. In addition to their lucrative subsidiaries like Marvel, Lucasfilms and Pixar, Disney has found great success recently producing live-action remake of their animated classics. New version of Cinderella, The Jungle Book and Beauty and the Beast were all major hits, proving there was a large audience interested in seeing fresh spins on familiar stories. The 2017 Beauty and the Beast even made over $1 billion worldwide. This year, the trends hit a rough patch when Tim Burton's Dumbo could only muster $112 million domestically for its entire run. Around the same time, Aladdin was generating negative backlash due to the questionable CGI effects on Will Smith's Genie, among other aspects. Raising question if the enterprise of live-action remake was nearing its expiration date, but then Aladdin earned surprisingly positive reviews as it was about to enter theaters, and now it's proven to be a monster success. For box office mojo, Aladdin earned $112 million over the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, which is the fifth highest all-time for the holiday. It passed X-Men Days of Future Past, which crossed $110 million in 2014 worldwide. Aladdin has brought in $233 million already, making back its $183 million production budget. With this, Aladdin became the latest 2019 blockbuster to surpass its early projections. Going into the weekend, some analysts had it back for just $75 million in the first 4 days, so Guy Ritchie's film definitely struck a chord with viewers, and there are a few reasons why. There was a demand for a new family films post Avengers Endgame, Detective Pikachu has performed fairly softly the past 3 weeks. Its domestic total is only $120 million. So Aladdin seems to fill a void. Additionally, it's based on one of the more famous Disney animated films of the past 30 years. The original Aladdin was part of the Mouse House Renaissance period that also included works like Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. There was a sizable built-in audience curious to see how the story was interpreted in live action. It also didn't hurt. Word of mouth was pretty good. Aladdin didn't really recapture the magic of the 1992 version, but it was still very enjoyable. Disney will certainly be happy with these results, so it proves Dumbo was merely a fluke and there's still money to be made by redoing the old animated hits. Aladdin's opening weekend bodes well for The Lion King, which is already poised to break records when it debuts in July. It will be interesting to see how strong Aladdin's legs are with other tentpoles like Godzilla King of the Monster and Dark Phoenix on the way. But this is a strong start of a film that was seriously debated at one point during its advertising campaign. Disney Aladdin has officially earned $1 billion at global box office. Disney's live-action remake of Aladdin has officially earned $1 billion at the global box office today after almost reaching the milestone on Thursday, July 25 with 999 million USD. As reported by THR, Aladdin had earned $343 million in North America and $656 million internationally through yesterday. Today it joined Spider-Man, Far From Home, Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame as the only film in the $1 billion club for 2019. Disney remake of 1992 Aladdin has become the 41st film to earn $1 billion at the global box office and is now the 5th Disney live-action film to earn $1 billion following Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, Pirates of the Caribbean on Strange Tides, and Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest. Aladdin is about as safe as adaptation as we have seen Disney put out, which is a bit disappointing considering that most of what it adds to the story works pretty well. Disney's Aladdin will undoubtedly be joined by 2019 The Lion King, which released last week and is, in our opinion, Disney's most successful remake yet. In its opening weekend, The Lion King earned as estimated $185 million domestically and another $346 million overseas. Aladdin, in comparison, earned $86 million domestically. The reviews of the movie. Aladdin review live-action remake really takes flight. The cinematographers are out for Disney's live-action Aladdin, what with the enduring fondness for the original, not least Robin Williams' Genie, and the botched unveiling of Will Smith as his successor in an early trailer that presented him as a creepy, half-naked blue guy from the Uncanny Valley. Director and co-writer Guy Ritchie is hardly a seal of quality these days, neither following flops The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and King Arthur Legends of the Swords. But sheathe your weapons because this new Aladdin is actually great fun. It is far from perfect, but where many recent franchises have crumpled under the weight of their special effect, Tim Burton's Dumbo for one, this one really takes flight. It is lively, colorful and genuinely funny and doesn't break that didn't need fixing about the original. As one character remarks for Aladdin's early attempt at romance, it's clumsy but in a charming sort of way. Any Hollywood movie set in a fancy Arab kingdom is going to have its issue, but Disney has sought to avoid the authentic stereotyping that marred its 1992 animation. For starters, the cast are brown-skinned actors. All the voice actors in the original were white. Egyptian Canadian Mena Massoud brings the rich, quiet, roguish charm to Aladdin himself. The street rat with a heart of gold, Princess Jasmine, is played by Naomi, a British actor for Indiana descent, and Dutch Tunisian Marvel Kenzari is the villain Jafar. There is also Orphan Prince, played by Billy Magnuson, who is treated more like a recurring gag. But we all know the main draw here is the blue-skinned guy. It has felt like Will Smith's mojo really is trapped inside a lab after what seems like a decade of miserable and self-important serious roles which reach their nadir with after-earth and collateral beauty. Smith seizes his chance to let it out again and do what he does best. His Genie is less cartoonishly manic than Williams' most human you could say, but he is still the life of the party, part queer eye makeover guru, part Siri in human form, past rom-com best buddy, with perhaps a touch of which the professional matchmaker Smith played in 2005. His assistance with Aladdin clumsy attempts to woo Jasmine in the movie's comic engine, but in a Julius tweak to the original, the Genie also gets a love interest in the form of Jasmine's servants, Darla, played by Nassim Pedrad, who gets a few good comic lines of his own. Jasmine herself is given a few extras to amp up her agency, not least a Let It Go style power ballad speechless to proclaim how she is not just going to stand aside and take all his like a passive princess. Scott carried the song's well, but it comes a little too late in proceedings to make an impact. But if we are being honest, and many of the musical interludes feels like unnecessary interruptions, more successful is the grand Caribbean street procession with hordes of dancers, wild animals, and Aladdin starred a giant flower-covered camel float and an athletic Bollywood-style ballroom dance. Both are full of color and energy. In terms of cultural reference, this theme park Arabia setting is all over the palace, drawing an influence from Morocco to Turkey to India, with barely an hour reference to Islam to be seen. You could say it's all an idealized originalist fantasy, but it comes across more as respectful representation than reckless appropriation. On the whole, Ritchie's adaptation wisely does little except add human flesh to the bare bones of what has always one of Disney's strongest stories. If you need a plot summary, you must have been living in a cave for the last 100 years. It still holds up a tale whose central couple's deception and interference and self-discoveries have a pleasant symmetry to them, and whose it's what inside that counts. Morals are in the right place. That's really all anyone wanted out of a new Aladdin. Not a whole new world, just a slightly updated only one. 2019 Aladdin is the live action and remake of the animated movie. If you have been following for a long time, you know I'm not the biggest fan of these Disney live action remakes. A few I have enjoyed are Mary Poppins Return, Pete's Dragon, and Cinderella. But even when I enjoy them, the overall moment away from animation is not my favorite. Plus, when it goes bad, it got really bad. Maleficent, Alice in Wonderland, Beauty and the Beast. So naturally, when I heard about a remake of the Disney classic Aladdin, I was pretty skeptical. I was mere skeptical when they hired director Guy Ritchie, who I have not been a fan of, to helm the project. Then the casting looked questionable. How do you replace Robin Williams, one of the great vocal performers, over, and the trailers were uneven at best. Nevertheless, I always try to set all the baggage aside and go into a movie with an open mind, otherwise why bother? So what was the result of the live action Aladdin? I'd say it is a decidedly mixed bag. It's not awful and it's not classic like the original. It's squarely middle of the road entertainment, nothing more, nothing less. Let's start with the positives. The best part about the film is the performance of Mena Massoud as Aladdin and Naomi Scott as Jasmine. They are not only good charismatic actors, but they had great chemistry and are pretty decent singers. I really enjoyed the one jump sequence from Massoud and Scott has a power ballad called Speechless that felt a little out of place musically but was still a pretty good, well sung piece written by La La Land's Basic and Paul. I also thought they needed a whole new word because of their chemistry and good singing. It was everything I could have wanted in that sequence. I also enjoyed Will Smith when he was not the blue genie that we know and love. My friend Jin, who attended the screening with me, said she thought she was playing the part of Hitch, acting as a matchmaker between a nervous Aladdin and confident Jasmine. These scenes are funny and well produced. They even have Genie getting some of his own plot lines which I surprisingly didn't hate. The trailers are also misleading on how devoted to the original the remake it is not a shot for shot remake which many were afraid of but instead tried its own thing. The pacing could be a little tighter in spot but overall the story and script work plus the Alan Menken music is always a treat. Unfortunately, I also had problem with this new version of Aladdin, the biggest fall in two camps, Blue Genie sequence and the portrayal of Jafar. Like I said, I enjoyed the scenes of Will Smith portraying matchmaker and mentoring Aladdin as a normal looking version of himself. However, I did not like him as the Blue Genie. First of all, he looked ridiculous with CGI that was only slightly better than the first trailer. That said, my biggest problem was they took all the funny out of these scenes. I wonder if they were afraid of fans comparing him to Robin Williams. Unfortunately, their situation was to make Friend Like Me and Prince Ali flat and bland with hardly any jokes or energy to them. It felt like glitchy cruise ship redishly more concerned with checking off boxes instead of digging into a deep manic energy to make us laugh and smile. Also, Will Smith doesn't have a Broadway style singing voice, so they should have embraced its more hip hop style rather than produce weak version of these iconic tunes. My other problem with Aladdin is the portrayal of Jafar by Marwan Kenzari. He had a lot of the trappings of Jafar, but the performance was very annoying and whiny. I have always thought of Jafar as a pretty bold but surviving villain, and his was just irritating. It also didn't help that Lago as a live action character was window dressing instead of the comic relief that makes the animated Jafar so full of dry, menacing wit. I really struggle whether to go smile or frown worthy on this Aladdin. I am about split down the middle on it, but it is so pale in comparison to the original animated classic that I am not going fresh on the one. It's not awful and it has its charms, but I'd still say about home and watch the original. Tough cut but Aladdin is in a self-aware moment from the new live-action Aladdin. A character hold up a sketch of three other characters. The sketch in a line drawing down in the style of the hit 1992 animated Aladdin. The basis of the movie you are watching is a simple fun and direct, more concerned with being delightful than with looking real. The remake, directed by Guy Ritchie, with Will Smith taking over for the late Robin Williams in the role of the Genie, flips those priorities. That's not to say that it's never fun because it sometimes is just as more after lambering, patchy, maneuvering, and generally bereft of inspiration. It's a dancing elephant of a movie. It has a few decent moves. You had never call it light on its fleet. Written by John August Big Fish and rewritten by Ritchie with music and songs by Alan Menken and the late Howard Ashman, plus a couple of original tunes intended to qualify the film for Best Original Songs Oscar. The film is unfortunately a perfect illustration of an observation by Josh Raby, summing up his era of both Disney features and computer animation using CGI to turn expressive animated films into photoreal reboots feels like using a magic wand to make a tosser. This Aladdin is still the funny, sentimental inspiration story of a poor street rat who comes into possession of a magic lamp and a magic carpet, summons a big blue genie, and embarks on a scheme to win the heart of a princess and stop an evil vizier from stealing the kingdom away from the heroine's dad. There are at least two potential good and somewhat original takes struggling get out of this remake and assets themselves. One is the story of how the genie bonded with Aladdin and tried to scare his own freedom without breaking any genie master rules. The other is about the Princess Jasmine, who is not merely a spirited feminist who enjoys distinguishing himself as a peasant and hanging with the commoners but seems ready to aggregate for representative democracy if nudged in the right direction. Neither of these is permitted to seize the spotlight for very long. And that's a shame because some of the most compelling, though not top-grossing live-action remakes of animated film to come out of the Disney studios recently have been out that jump off from slightly less beloved title like The Jungle Book, Pete's Dragon and Maleficent, which retells Sleeping Beauty from the witch point of view and created works that felt more like companion piece, even subversion, than remakes. This sticks to the beaten path so stylishly that when it departs from it's as if the entire movie had momentary escape from bondage like the genie from his lamp. Will Smith is the only big star in the cast, so it was probably inevitable that he'd be awarded the filming device. He is a maneater telling the story of Aladdin to his two young children when he is not being asked to reenact most of the really good lines, jokes and situations from the 1992 version, which is probably 70% of his screen time. He puts his own stamp on the role. But the opportunities are scarce, so when Smith does depart from the scare text, mainly during emotional moments and dialogue-dependent comedy scene where Ritchie gets to show off his knack for smart Allison banter, the moment don't accumulate into a distinctive performance. They just sort of hang there, feeling disconnected from the movie's reason for existence, which is to draw people into theater with the promise of seeing the same thing they already know they loved, but slightly different. Smith co-stars run into the same problem. Massoud has a deadpan comic energy that shines whenever he is not required to simply reenact his animated, counterplays iconic moments. Due to Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine, who has a fierce dignity and cannot help in that her big original number Speechless, a song about the silencing of women by the patriarchy written by two men, La La Land and Dear Evan Hansel, composer Pasek and Paul, feels wedged into the movie like a doorstep. The motivation for the song Tha is much more organic and might feel sincere and powerful rather than opportunistic had the movie built to it, or better yet, centered the story on her. Marwan Kenzari's performance as the atrocious Vizier Jafar departs more strikingly from the original film. Kenzari tries to create something closer to an anti-hero than a traditional bad guy, and although it's ultimately more of a riff or a vibe than a strong characterization, the writing glazes down as it's does very character. He is grossly scary in the second half. Little kids will be terrified of him. For the opening Arabian Nights, number 2 Friend Like Me, A Whole New World and Beyond, most of the major sequences are the same, although there are a few fresh twists scattered throughout. Practically during the last half hour, this Aladdin in 2 hours and 8 minutes long, 37 minutes longer than the original. This is also part of a trend in theatrical films. Perhaps the increasingly long average runtimes of special effects driven blockbuster are a response to complaint that tickets are too expensive, which is actually a way of saying that real wages have not risen substantially since the early 97. A larger movie getting more of your money, and this justifies taking the kids, maybe even buying something at the concessions stand. The filmmaking is disappointingly pedestrian, some long trafficking shots stitched together with CGI, some dangerous chase scene augmented by CGI, some musical number with ostriches and elephants and monkeys and camels, etc. All CGI and Smith's Genie whooping around the frame, his broad and CGI augmented torso and shoulder swelling and bobbling and waving while trailing a curiously heap-looking trail of sparkles. There were early reports that the film was going to address charges of xenophobia and racism leveled against the original, but there's not too much evidence that the filmmakers were really troubling themselves with it. It's quite possible that nobody seeing this film will feel that anything has gone missing. The audience I saw it with at a sneak preview seems to immediately enjoy it, though it's impossible to know it such circumstance if it was really the movie winning them over or the fact that the tickets were free. Aside from a few jockey buddy comedy exchanges between Aladdin and the Genie, most of the bit that seems to work best are imported from the original. As is often the case with the recent Disney remake, this one seems to adhere to the same misconception that affects the rest of the film industry. Practically, where science fiction, adventure, superhero narratives, and fairy tales are concerned, that it is animated, i.e., a cartoon, it's somehow not a real movie. And that's not worthy of the enigmatic respect bestowed upon the most expensive and heavily promoted motion picture, and not by validating to the people who have paid to see it. All of which is also strange considering how CGI dependent these sort of movies are, even when they are trying to make the mountains and buildings and tigers and parakeets made of ones and Zorros look as real as possible. Aladdin is no more realistic ultimately than Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, which came out 20 years earlier and has a comparatively sketchy computer imaginary. This apparently is where both audience and the filmmaker who serve them want the movie industry to go, toasters as far as the eye can see. Aladdin movie review. Will Smith is Aladdin. Of all the characters in Walt Disney Studios canon, is there any more animated than the Genie from Aladdin? In 1992, old school cartoonish seemed the same way to keep up with comedian Robin Williams' rapid fire sense of humor and free associative gift of improvisation. Much of the appeal of the original Aladdin came thanks to the ingenuity of its animator, led by Eric Goldberg, who used the medium to transform the mile-a-minute Wishmaster before our eyes. As a memorable moment when he cycles through caricatures from William F. Buckle Jr. to a Marine Corps drill sergeants Kissy Lapers, George Pugh, and back from the dead Peter Lorre, the beloved character's elastic quality makes Aladdin perhaps Disney's most daunting live-action adaptation, yet to say nothing of how Hollywood's growing awareness of representation issue rendered the original highly problematic. Without Williams or the near-infinitive flexibility of hand-drawn animation, the challenge becomes how to translate such an elastic character to the world of flesh and blood actors. Instead of casting another vile actor to play a character in an Arabian sad story, hyperkinetic Sherlock Holmes actor Guy Ritchie goes a different route, inviting Will Smith to bring the chalky hip-hop swagger of his early career to the role. While CG swelling the actor's muscle to match, call it Aladdin and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which could well have been Ritchie's patch for a still largely stereotype-driven project that seems to work best when it's not direct emulating the cartoon that came before. It took Walt Disney Studios the better part of the century to build a library filled with the worst things of an animated classics, and then less a decade to create that catalog in the service of all these entertaining but clearly unnecessary live-action remake. Movies that from the looks of things will not stand the test of time but have proven awfully profitable in the short term. The fact that in the 20 years fewer people will be watching his Aladdin than the 1992 cartoon seems to motivate Ritchie, who shares screenplay credit with John August, to make the film reflect the moment. That's evident from the opening scene as Smith sings a fresh version of Arabian Nights in which the word chaotic update the original songs. Culturally intensive, it's a barbaric, but hey, it's some lyrics. This faming device also pays off an idea intended for but never implanted by the 1992 cartoon, in which it makes sense why the Ritchie is singing this particular number in human form. More importantly, the 1992 movie White-Eyed but Unwritten Princess Jasmine has now ambitions for her own. As embodied by Naomi Scott, she is no longer just a beauty to be won by damn it in the rough street urchin Aladdin, here played by Mena Massoud, but a restless and frustrated young woman who sees herself as a potential successor to her father, the Sultan. If Will Smith's Genie seems bigger and potentially more powerful than Williams did, then the opposite goes for the power-hungry Jafar. Dutch actor Marwan Kenzari may be a handsome alternative to the animated version asset Vizier with his pencil, mustache and Sophia Loren's eye, but he no longer looms large enough to feel like much of a threat. In the 27 years since the cartoon was first released, Disney's Aladdin has been reinvented once before as live-action Broadway musical, a natural constraint the cartoon's show-tuned powers format. Ritchie's approach benefits from the adaptation, reteaming with composer Aladdin Menken, who is assisted here by La La Land, Rex Banjpasic and Justin Paul. The director borrows many of the ideas from the stage version and parts them back over into the iconic visual world of the animated film, adding an over-the-top Bollywood-style spin to the film's biggest production numbers. It's great to see Smith in comedic mood again and smart to the team to the base the Genie's personality on the star's brand rather than imitating what Williams did with the role. Even in cases where Smith is quoting directly from the original, his persona comes through loud and clear as this blue huge CG enhanced master of ceremonies. If anything, is the stage Genie whose influence comes through, for it was a Broadway that the Genie was first played so flamboyantly. James Morley Langerhearted are a Tony of that fresh interpretation. Smith built on that approach, affecting the devil-like attitude of a demanding fashion designer. The character is not gay per se. In fact, the Genie gets a romantic subplot of his own involving Jasmine, handmaiden Dahlia, watching Smith performance. However, one could certainly make the case that the closet can be even more confining than a magic lamp, although kids will see the characters punching as a kind of silly cloning, which it certainly is. Frankly, Aladdin could have used one of the square eye makeovers, as the projection design, costumes and choreography all look garish compared with the relatively classy and consistently elegant aesthetic that an openly gay musical director such as Bill Cannon brought to his Beauty and the Beast adaptations. But when it comes to reinventing Disney cartoons, it's still sketchy as kitsch can. Here the outfits are lovely, especially Jasmine's teal-toned wardrobe, though it's a shame to cover up Aladdin's trademark bare chest, and the character's hairpiece doesn't do the dimple-cheeked Massoud any favors. Hollywood had been using Arabian story as an excuse to show skin since Ronald Valentino made the Sheikh and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. played Sinbad the Sailor. One can imagine Ritchie's version pretty much earning the fundamentalistic seals of approval, where the director really shines in it, mangling practical element with virtual ones, whether making Smith's computer-enhanced and Crowley-skinned Genie look natural, sharing the screen with Aladdin, or whooping the camera along magical carpet rides through virtual sets. Ritchie's style embraced the kind of explanations needed to pull off such a fanciful tale. The sequence featuring a whole new world actually feels more timeless here by virtues of its extreme stylization, where Smith Prince Ali number has the more dated feel of an laboratory stage 1990 50s showstopper. Audience know these Disney classics so well that any live action adaptation succeed or fail by how closely the filmmaker choose to adhere to the original. From the start, Aladdin demanded at least one major change as a story inspired by 1001 Nights. The cartoon was an Arabic folk tale as reinvented by white guy, which means that any contemporary version would need to cast people of color in the roles. Smith will get the majority of the attention, bringing so much of his own brand to the Genie. He even calls out his own name in the end credit songs. Yet Scott commands our share of respect as Jasmine, reinventing the character via the movie's contemporary sounding speechless, the closest thing of a female empowerment anthem Disney has given us since Queen Elsa Let It Go in the Frozen. Aladdin 1992 version was estimated, and the live action Aladdin is 2019 in Disney live action remake of Aladdin, a whole new world. Not quite, it's not a short for short remake of the original, but it's close. Aladdin may not offer too much that's new, but Disney magic does bring the classic to a whole new generation of fans. The story and song should keep any fans of Aladdin or newcomer interested for its 128-minute runtime. This is a full spoiler review for Aladdin. A familiar word. The story of Aladdin does not change from the original boy meets girl. Then we have our main character motivation for the rest of the plot. We get the girl. The girl in this case is a princess, which of course is a problem since our main character Aladdin is a street rat. The plot does not deviate from the original at all. Aladdin finds Genie and he gets the girl. After a series of lies and songs, I was disappointed how closely it stuck to the original. I was hoping it would be a more of a retelling than a remake, but either way it was great to see a childhood favorite cartoon brought to life. Following the first trailers, I lost all excitement in the movie. I felt they got all the character wrong and I could not get behind it. I tried my best to go into this movie and an open mind, and what happened surprised me. Most of the characters grow on me very quickly. Aladdin, played by Mena Massoud, was by far my favorite character. He brought the same charisma that the original cartoon brought. Whenever he was on screen, the movie was its best. It didn't matter if he was singing, dancing, or just flashing his goofy smile. The movie shined when he was there. Jasmine was a character that by the end of the movie I came around on. Naomi Scott was great in the role. My problem were not with how she played the role, but rather how they made her look. When I looked at her, I really didn't see Jasmine. Her performance was so believable that by the end I did see Jasmine in her. Jasmine had one of the bigger changes for cartoon to live action. They made her have more of the voice, which is another way of saying they gave her more singing to do. The added songs were a welcomed change. The Genie was one of the least liked character. Will Smith did one thing I was very happy about. He did not try to be Robin Williams. With that said, he also didn't do anything great with the character. It seems like he basically just tried to play himself. If you are a fan of Will Smith, you will most likely enjoy the Genie. But it would have been nice to see Smith really try to make the part something special. His delivery on his jokes and even the way he sings some of the most famous songs you cannot help but hear. The Fresh Prince in his voice, which for me was distracting. Jafar was the weakest character in the film. Marwan Kenzari was not believable as Jafar at all. Some of this was his doing, but the rest was the script. Jafar was not really given too much as on screen to show what his motives really are. He wants power and will do anything to get it, but that's all you get from him. Kenzari, for the most part, came off as just your average guy. He was really lacking the evil, menacing vibe of the original Jafar. At the end, when Jafar goes full evil with the power of his wishes, that's when we finally see what Kenzari could have been doing with this character for the whole movie. The songs in the film are mostly incredible. It opens up with Smith's rendition of Arabian Nights, which was nicely done and gets you ready for the movie. One Jump Ahead is a mix of singing and action, which translates pretty well from cartoon to live action. When we first meet the genie, we are treated to friend like me. In the cartoon, this was my favorite song, but in this remake, it was my least favorite. The visuals here are fantastic, but the song just doesn't do it for me. The entire song is changed to fit Smith's Genie. The way he is singing in this song, I just keep expecting the next verse to be in West Philadelphia. They really need a Smith rap career for this song, and I think it's a shame since we know Smith can do more than rap. The next song was my favorite, Prince Ali. This is where we see anything Smith can do. It's a great rendition of the song and a great performance. Giant groups of people singing and dancing in the street presenting Aladdin as a prince. It was well choreographed and even added some humor to the classic scene. The last two songs to talk about, Let Naomi Shine, her solo song Speechless shows us that Jasmine will not be told what to do. It was a way to modernize the character and eliminate the damsel in distress aspect. But it didn't beat you over the head with it. It's a nice balance. Then a whole new word is done perfectly. Massoud and Stark take this song and make it theirs and they own it. The visuals riding around on the carpet are nothing short of spectacular. Disney magic is real and this scene proves it. Things are not always what they seem. I was expecting this movie to have some love but not as many as we were treated to. The banter between Smith and Massoud is comedy gold, which really shines when Aladdin meets the Sultan and Jasmine as Prince Ali for the first time. Aladdin is making a fool of himself and stumbling over these words and constant commentary from Genie. The scene ends with Genie telling Aladdin, "In 10,000 years I have never been so impressed." Every line leading up to that quite had me laughing, and this was a scene begging to be rewatched. I wish to set you free. The conclusion of this movie plays out the same as the original, which is to be expected. This time, Jafar never really wishes to become a genie but still becomes one. He is strict by Aladdin just like in the original, but his wish is just to be most powerful being, after which Genie tells us there is a lot of grey area in the wish and then makes him a genie and saves the day. This movie is worth your time for the singing and dancing alone. Like I started earlier, most of the songs are great, but even when the songs are not at their best, the visuals are so great that you forget the song is not perfect. In a time of remakes, this is a remake that I would recommend. Fans of the original and newcomers will have plenty of area in this film to find joy. Aladdin 2019 movie. Gold-hearted street rat Aladdin, played by Mena Massoud, dreams of a better life. Conceited Princess Jasmine, played by Naomi Scott, dreams of freedom. And frustrated Vizier Jafar, played by Marwan Kenzari, lusts for power, which he hopes to gain via a wish-granting genie Will Smith, who resides in a magic lamp into the nearby Cave of Wonders. The counterpiece number of Disney's Aladdin extol the wonders of discovering a whole new world, but even with the director so usually stylistically distinctive as Guy Ritchie, This mostly live action do over feels very much the same old world. Not that we were expecting speed ramped bare knuckle fights, geezer from Giza, or Princess Jasmine telling her infatual Sultan that to grow a pair. But beyond a slick single take opening with around the city of Agrabah and a Ritchie Equi, in a celebration of the villainous Jafar's background and co-writes with John August, you cannot detect the filmmaker's hand behind the camera. It's a Disney remake business as usual, as this interest coming closest to 2017 Beauty and the Beast, expanded but keep the same story beats, the same set pieces and the same songs aside from a fresh belter, Alan Menken pin from Jasmine, which with its all frozen style motifs theft feels a bit misplaced here. Maybe that's all anyone wants from Disney's second rub of the lamp. After all, it worked for Beauty, but it's uniquely problematic when it comes to the Genie. Arguably, Disney's greatest character, the elevated Aladdin 92 through the star casting of Robin Williams, who was given free rein to riff and improvise. With the striking AI Harshwade-inspired animation built closely around his show-stopping performance, Will Smith was by no means a crazy choice. He has been known to stop a few shows himself, but to funnel his big wheelie style into what is largely a rinse and repeat of Williams' performance was the wrong move. There are a few notable differences. This version plays to Smith looks and gave the Genie a second tier romance with Jasmine, handmaiden Dahlia, gamely played by Saturday Night Live's Nesam Pedret. Plus, when he is in regular human form, his natural charms vibe well with Mena Massoud's Aladdin. This is especially true during the Prince Ali scenes where the pair together are the film's biggest loves, with Aladdin inept attempts to woo Jasmine primarily by listening different types of jam, but Smith's renditions of Friend Like Me and Prince Ali feel oddly strange and hollow, and even worse, every moment he is in blue CGI form, it's uncomfortable to watch. With the forced smiles and uncanny valley eyes, parachute atop a poofed up, wobbling torso, so nothing but gas blew the waist. It's not a good look for Smith. Thankfully, Massoud and former Pink Power Ranger Naomi Scott can't state with their easy chemistry, and Disney's big dollar production value gives the tune version a luxurious stereo set makeover. From the palace glittrimate uplands to the bursting city streets to Aladdin's shabby gorgeous tower top hideout as a remake, then it brings the tune to vivid life, but where the original left you having more Genie action, this version variety makes you wish the whales in it less. Another lavish and largely entertaining Disney redo with strong turns from Massoud and Scott, but appropriately for someone playing a huge, powerful, entitled tap and a tiny ornament. Smith Genie performance feels disappointingly constrained both by our dependence on the original and some ghostly CGI. Aladdin 2019. After the Jungle Book proved that Disney could make a ton of monkey remaking their animated film with live action actors and digital animals, it was only a matter of time before they would give a similar treatment to their beloved Disney animated films. However, so far, the reception to reach one of these remakes has seems to only has gotten worse since the past couple of years, with most people lamenting the new version of their favorite Disney classics. I heard many a complaint lodged at Aladdin before it even came out, so my hopes were not exactly high for when I sat down to see it for myself. Having no real attachment to the Disney film of my childhood, I was prepared for it to be good, bad, or mediocre. Guess which one it is. Aladdin and Jasmine are cast well and portrayed well, cool dance and park out moments that are fun to watch. Subliments with Genie, while unnecessary, is a welcomed addition. Some of the songs are good. Unnecessary characters change to add depth only cause more issues. Vagueness is hollow and feels like shameless pondering. CG animals look bad, especially Abu. Some songs are not so good. Plot and thoughts. Aladdin is the story of the titular young thief Aladdin trying to survive in the kingdom of Agrabah and going on a wild journey. He ends up in possession of a magical lamp with an all powerful genie, played by Will Smith, trapped inside. Aladdin uses the genie to become a prince overnight so he can woo and marry the resident Princess Jasmine, played by Naomi Scott, but the evil royal concealer Jafar seeks power and wants the lamp for himself to rule. As you might expect, it's up to Aladdin to stop him. It's the same story as the 1991 animated movie, so if you have seen one, you don't need to see the other. Essentially, that's how I feel towards each one of these Disney remakes I have watched so far. They don't do anything to really justify their existence or make them different from the original films. They are exactly what you think they are, cash grabs. That doesn't make them inherently bad movies. I think Beauty and the Beast is so far from good. Mena Massoud as Aladdin and Naomi Scott as Jasmine is a great pair of extremely active and talented stars who are well cast for their roles. Both play the parts exceptionally well and bring a lot of charisma to the film. However, both characters get bogged down by the additional quirks the filmmaker add to them to make them more complex or just politically suitable for the culture of modern audience. Jasmine has always been a strong white symbol for women's suffrage as a princess without a voice or a vote, forced to abide by the laws of the land without much of a say in who she can marry or if she has a right to rule as Sultan of Agrabah. She gives a speech toward the end of the film that is effective and powerful and hits home the point of her character. Unfortunately, it is undermined by a new song she sings just prior to the speech that is made to pat out how hard she has it because she is a woman in a man's world and is not it unfair and sad. Yeah, of course it is. We got that message already from everything else she had to endure, and we know that she is capable of overcoming it. It's a song that should be sung at the start so that she gives the speech. We can see something of character growth or just acknowledging that she is overcoming her hardship, much like how the Disney animated film Mulan has a song of a similar meaning at the start of the film. Mulan doesn't sing it again at the end after she saves the day or anything. She proves her worth through her actions, which is what Jasmine's speech should represent. Jasmine's songs coming at the end of the movie and right before a speech that is much more meaningful to her character is irritatingly distracting. It's a beautifully song, but it's a lame song that is hollow and just feels like Disney pandering to its audience. Meanwhile, Aladdin is a confidence theme until it's no longer convenient for the film for him to be confident. Likewise, he is a selfless until it's no longer convenient. The original film balances the traits of his character more driftly and it never felt arbitrary when he considered going back on his promise to the genie or when he starts to get nervous around Jasmine. The hard swings in the version of the story, however, are much more abrupt and irritating. It makes his character feel inconsistent rather than more human or believable flaws. It's a fine if he looks confident at first upon becoming a prince and trying to flirt with Jasmine, but Aladdin is still supposed to be a confident stug who gets over the initial anxiety. Here, it seems like he swings back and forth the whole time and doesn't really stick to his guns. The rest of the supporting cast is perfectly fine. I didn't really like Jafar, but it was not the fault of the actor. I also have become pretty tired of William Smith's version of acting, but he's not as intolerable as Genie. In fact, I thought that the love interest with him and Jasmine served as a welcome addition to the movie, albeit an unnecessary one. Nothing special, but it at least had something to set itself apart from the original in a way that doesn't involve lame pondering. The special effects are not great. All the big action scenes that require special effect don't look practically good or amazing. The animals are also setting in an uncanny valley of not good enough, especially with the expression of the monkey. The only time that the special effect did much favor to the movie were during the Genie song and the Prince Ali song. But if you want color and flair to match a catchy song, it's difficult to beat the animated version. The songs are all pretty much the same with a few minor adjustments, so some lines to keep it more socially acceptable in today's market, but their sound has been adjusted to suit a less jazzy tune and the vocal ranges of the actors. My preference goes to the original film songs, but these are fine too. Aladdin is metalcore. There were settings I like and things I didn't like. A talented cast, good dancing, ugly CGI, and the inventive reimagining of the songs culminative in a musical package that just made me shrug and say fine. It exists like many other remakes out there and it does very little to justify its existence. But it at least does not offend enough to make it travesty. Aladdin 2019, the good and bad of 2019 Aladdin movie. Like much of America, I was brought up on Disney films. I grew up owning literally every Disney animated film ever made and watching each of them on repeat. And being that I grew up during the Disney re-insistence, I really loved Aladdin and who would not? It's got a fun story, memorable characters and an incredible soundtrack. I loved it so much that for many years worthy of Disneyland trips, my parents and I watched the live theatrical version at California Adventures Happy Theater and I even saw the Broadway version of the play when it went on tour. So I felt a huge point to get the cut when I found out they were making a live action version of the film starring Will Smith as the Genie. And after watching the bad case grab that was 2017 Beauty and the Beast starring Emma Watson, I feel strongly that this film would be just as depressing, but during a trip to Austin, Texas, the weekend of its release, Stam and I decided to see it just to get a good laugh out of it. And we were happily surprised that the movie was decent. Is it as magical or as great of the film as the original? Hell no, but we never expected it to be. What we did expect was a soulless interpretation of the film created by a panel of corrupt investors, but what we got instead was, while clunky and awkward in many ways, a pretty well made film with a surprising amount of heart. After glowing remarks about the film from friends and committed section all over the internet, we were happy that people felt the same we did. But then we got to looking at what the professional critics had to say, and they tore the film to shreds, which I totally understand if it were not for the fact that these were the same people who raved about terribly written film as a 2017 Wonder Woman and Beauty and the Beast. I was so confused that the critics who gushed over Emma Watson's wooden auto-tune performance as Bale and Gal Gadot's Stepford wife-like performance as Wonder Woman had the nerve to call this film soulless. With a huge difference between audience scores and critics scores for the film, critics' craft score being 56% and the audience craft score being 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. I had a feeling that something was up there in the world of Hollywood, politicking to get films prized and trashed by easily swayed money-hungry media journalists. There was some sort of vendetta against this film because the people have spoken and they think it was well done. So I figured I had throw my hat in and break down the good and bad of the film. While it has major flaws and is nowhere near as good as the original, I find it extremely unworthy of the criticism lobbed at it, especially from the people who called Emma Watson's singing in Beauty and the Beast beautifully crafted. Aladdin 2019, film review, and this is the remake of the 1992 classic. And the live action Aladdin 2099 is one of the better Disney live action reboot. However, that is not much saying, still the films work fairly well. While it is not the masterpiece that it's a rebooted form, it is a very entertaining film with a lot of heart. Disney fans will love it, casual moviegoers will enjoy it, and everyone else will at least not loathe it. While the film doesn't vary much from the plot of Aladdin 1992, but it still brings several new ideas to the table. These additions warrant the remake existence and help set it apart from the lackluster Disney reboots within the past few years. While not a perfect film, it's hard to dislike Guy Ritchie's take on Aladdin. Is this even necessary? I mean, come on, you know the plot of Aladdin already. It from some reason, however, you have spent 10,000 years in a tomb and need a refresher. I guess I can write this one. Starring Will Smith, Mena Massoud, Naomi Scott, Marwan Kenzari, Navid Noban, Nassim Pedrad, Billy Negosam, and Ellen Tonde. Aladdin Massoud is an orphan street rat who steals to survive through compassionate and caring. He is seen only the harshness of a life of poverty in Agrabah. After an encounter with the Princess Jasmine, Aladdin dreams of finding a way to win her affections despite the difference in their circumstance. At the same time, Aladdin is approached by the Grand Vizier Jafar about retrieving something from him in exchange for great wealth and status. Aladdin set out on Jafar's quest only to find himself becoming master of the genie of the lamp. The genie promises Aladdin three wishes, and the pairs set off to help street rat Aladdin become Prince Ali. Along the way, Aladdin and Jasmine find themselves tangled in a web of deceit and despair of Jafar's own making. Aladdin name may be on the title, but this is the Genie movie. More so, this is Will Smith movie. He is a top polite, he is blue, and he is having the type of life. Will Smith could not having more fun with the role, and his presence is an infectious to this movie as the late Robin Williams was in the original. Smith brings his signature brand of hype man comic energy to every scene. Even when the film is not working, Will Smith's presence carries the story until it gets back on course. In addition, the rule of the genie is expanded upon slightly for the remake, while he still exists as an over-the-top wishful filmmaker. He also gets to have a more human side to him in the film. The genie wants and desire are given more focus, adding dimension to the character. Yes, he still wants to be freed from the lamp, but he also wants more. The additional runtime of the reboot gives the film the needed time to flesh out his character to be justifying conclusion. Another character who gets much more attention due to the added runtime is Princess Jasmine. In fact, Jasmine gets the biggest upgrade for the reboot. While the character was strong and independent in the original, she became much more so for the reboot. Jasmine's relationship with the Sultan and her mother are explored in much greater detail. Because of this, Jasmine makes more sense as a character, and so does her father. Jasmine's extra focus in the reboot also means that she has her own musical number this time, and boy, can Naomi Scott sing. Next to Will Smith, Scott is the clear MVP of the film. The prowess and strength that she brings to Jasmine are just what the characters needed to be set apart from the other Disney reboot princess. She not only plays well off of Aladdin and the Sultan, but off of Jafar and the courting princess that seek her hand in marriage. Aladdin is the Black Panther of Disney reboots. I say this not because the film is as announced and socially biting as Black Panther, but Princess, it is a step in Arabic representation in the vein that Black Panther was for African representation. It's a no secret that most franchise leading men and women as white look at any big franchise in the past 100 plus years and you will see many Caucasian faces covering cinematic posters. Unfortunately, there have not been many high-profile films led by people of Middle Eastern heritage. Hell, even the original cast of Aladdin was just a group of white people. For many children, Aladdin is the first time that they can look up at the silver screen and see someone like them. More than that, they can see someone like them being the hero, not being the quirky sidekick or the guy in the chair. This is why Black Panther was is so culturally relevant and why Aladdin is relevant regardless of whether it is a good or bad movie. I also have to admire Ritchie's and Disney's commitment to keeping this movie authentically cast. They spent weeks on additional casting calls so that they could find the right actor for the right background to be their Aladdin. They could have easily thrown Jack Halloran to a turning bat again, but instead choose to do the work and do right the representation. Guy Ritchie is a very unique director. Visually speaking, he makes a lot of odd choices that typically end up working out in the film's best interest. He has a unique version when it comes to fighting and action, and it plays out very well in Aladdin's part. Whether Aladdin is parkours, rings off the rooftops, flying through the cave of wonders, or dancing in the palace, it's all very high energy and visually astounding. Guy Ritchie's signature brand of wit is also in a full force throughout the dialogue. The film is charming, fast and funny. If you are a fan of Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes or The Man from Uncle, then Aladdin surely will not disappointing. Gilbert Gottfried Logo is easily one of the most memorable characters from the original film, while the character is still present and speaking in the reboot, he doesn't steal the show in quite the same way. The rebooted version of Lago is acting more of the actual parrot than the original interpretation. The movie loses on a lot of funny and character building moments with Jafar and because it chooses to nix most of the companion colleague and dialogue and the role within the story. Reboot should exist in order to show a familiar story in a new light. In other words, there should be new life patched into a rebooted work or else it's just a pointless copy of an original. While Aladdin does breathe new life into Jasmine and the Genie in particular, it is too bogged down by the legacy of the original. The story is unable to completely move in new directions because it is too preoccupied with rushing the highlights of Aladdin. The same problem that plagued Beauty and the Beast also plagued this film. While it's nice to see some iconic moments again, it only makes we want to watch the original instead. The film could have greatly benefited itself by moving in a new direction, as did the Jungle Book, but instead chose to retreat the same story as its primary focus. Aladdin is fun, it also flashy, funny and entertaining. The new and expanded elements of the story are well done and benefit Aladdin's journey overall. However, the film is far from caught up is recapturing the magic of Aladdin 1992 to really find time to stand on its own legs. Odds are she will enjoy the movie and think it's a good, but it will not even be great. Aladdin movie review. Disney remake finds the diamond in the rough. Aladdin is a jubilant and energetic Disney retelling that mostly succeeds in updating the animated version, even if it is never feels quite as magical. Disney's live-action remake of its animated feature are practically their own subgenre by this point, complete with narrative drops and recurring visuals technique. And while the trend kicked off with Alice in Wonderland in 2010, it was not until Cinderella that those productions started to follow a recognizable formula. Indeed, the latest addition to the pile, Aladdin tries to reimagine and fix the 1992 animated version in most of the same ways that Dumbo, Beauty and the Beast and so forth attempted to crack their procedures before it. However, In this case, that formula works a lot better than some people have been expecting. Aladdin is a jolly and energetic Disney retelling that mostly succeeds in updating the animated version, even if it is never feels quite as magical. Story-wise, the live-action Aladdin mostly follows a familiar path to Disney's animated movie. However, director Guy Ritchie and his co-writer John August, who frequently collaborate with Tim Burton, make some changes that allow the first act to flow faster and more efficiently in this new version. Specifically, following the Arabian Nights musical prologue, the film moved right ahead to Aladdin meeting a disused Princess Jasmine on the street of Agrabah, then interprets her into the one jump ahead number. This allows a remake to playfully introduce Aladdin's life as a thief in the same way the animated feature does, while at the same time dive headfirst into Aladdin and Jasmine romance and establish the connection between the pair. It makes for unexpectedly economic storytelling and in all. As a result, the remake wastes little time getting to its best part, the scene with Aladdin, Jasmine and Genie. Jasmine, handmaiden Dahlia, playing as original character are all four at once. This is also where the film really finds its groove. Thanks to a combination of steady writing and great casting, Massoud hits all the right notes playing the quick-witted yet sensitive street urchin here, and his chemistry with Scott gives their countership that needed spark. Even when they are not singing and are dancing their hearts out. Scott is actually good as Jasmine, and the film's effort to modernize the character by making her more political, active, and informs work better than other recent attempts to update beloved Disney heroine, see making Bella on Interrupter. And while Dahlia is very much a supporting character, she serves as a nice foil to Jasmine, and their friendship helps to further flesh out the latter's personality. But of course, much like the animated film, the live-action Aladdin belongs to the Genie as much as its namesake or anyone else. Smith, as one would characterize, brings his usual mix of swaggers, charm, and emotional to the role, but this serves to set his take on the character apart from Robin Williams' iconic performance in the animated movie. In fact, his interpretation only really filters when he stops doing his own thing. A rapping friend like me, dancing romance advice like he is staring in Hitch to Arabian Backlog, and tries to emulate Williams' Shatrick as the Pyganic Blue, cosmetically powered being. Speaking of which, the finished CGI effects used to transform Smith into his Genie form are far better than early marketing material suggested. And the film's visuals in general are pretty lavishing thanks to Gima Jackson's aforementioned production design and the pleasant colors of Michael Markstone's costume. Aesthetically, there are times when Ritchie bad habits of uneven framing and rough editing rears its head here, but his trademark slow first move style largely benefits the film's case consequences and gives some extra flair. This brings us to Aladdin's biggest problem, namely its villain Jafar. While the remake aspires to give its antagonist greater depth by fleshing out his motivation for going after the genie's lamp and revealing his backstory, it ends up making him less interesting than his outwardly wicked and flamboyant yet also more memorable animated counterpart. The ghost double for Lago, who is portrayed in a grounded fashion that robs the false sidekick of much of his personality. At the end of the day, these flaws reflect the main issue with the remake. Even with all the flashy spectacle and Bollywood-style numbers one could ask for, including Speechless, a fine little addition that greatest showman passes and Paul wrought with Alan Menken. The film's attempt to make this classic fairy tale feel more realistic ultimately hinder it and prevent it from soaring to greater heights. Altogether, the Aladdin makes for one of the more enjoyable live-action Disney remakes so far, and its updates to the animated version. Its removal of the authentic, stereotypical, and more brazenly resist elements largely warrants in favor. Yes, this is still the filtering of Middle Eastern folklore and culture through the lens of a big, shiny American blockbuster. But so was the animated movie, and the representation provided by the new version is sorely needed as ever in the current Hollywood landscape. Filmgoers who have grown tired of the Mouse House remake formula might have a harder time getting on board for this one than others, but those who love the animated feature may be pleasantly surprised by how much they like the retelling too. It might not be a whole new world, but it's far from a lifeless rehash. Aladdin is playing in the US theater nationwide. At this point, we have seen enough live action reimagining of Disney animated canon to know they don't always concern themselves with breaking the mold. The classic are classic for a reason, so if it is not broke, what's to fix, right? It should comes as no surprise then that Aladdin adaptation of 1992 Aladdin for the most part is very content to color inside the lines. Most of the proceedings will feel very familiar to fans of the original, so if you are looking for a totally different take on it, you are going to have to temper expectations. What we do get in a visually impressive, energetic adventure that could have spent a little more time on what new it does bring to the table. Disney has a huge challenge out of the gate in conceiving the movie. How the heck do you recast the Genie, a role so iconically played by the late Robin Williams? Will Smith stands as the Genie for all of its blue-tinged pre-release controversy is largely a success. Crocally, Smith avoided the one thing that would have derailed the performance, trying to recreate the inimitable Robin Williams' irritation of the character. William Genie was an amplification of the actor's signature gothic personality, and Will Smith wisely steered for clear of trying to match that. This Genie relies on Smith's charm, bravado, and the clear amount of fun he is having playing the role. The story does give Smith's Genie a little more depth than just being blue and hilarious, affording him a surprisingly fun and grounded subplot. But does Smith get by on charm alone? It's going to depend a lot on your opinion of Will Smith, while Robin Williams breezed through dozens of different voices and personas to bring the Genie to life. Never getting us know what to expect, this version of the character very much feels like Blue Will Smith. Blue Hedge may be closer, so your belief with the character is going to vary a lot based on how willing you are to expect that. While Smith does fine work, how reliant this Genie is on Smith's personality does make you wonder if an actor pushing further out of their comfort zone would have gotten us closer to the mountless creativity that made Robin Williams' performance so memorable. Perhaps inevitably Smith's charisma does end up overdoing newcomers Mena Massoud as the title character. This is not helped by a script that always seems to be more interested in the characters surrounding Aladdin rather than Aladdin himself. Massoud Aladdin is rather cheapest, and when you are up against Blue Fresh Prince, you need to bring a little more to the table to stand out. Massoud is definitely strongest in his comedic sense as Prince Ali strumming his way through trying to woo Princess Jasmine and finding new and painfully awkward ways of messing it up. Aladdin is shown early on through a little act of Robin Hoodism. That's the thing, right? To be a good-hearted guy looking out of those that have it worse than him, but when it comes time for his wish-flawed selfishness to start driving his decision-making, it feels like it's just happening because that's how the story is supposed to go and not because this version has gone the legwork to make us believe
Aladdin could so easily become a jerk based on what we know about him. It's emblematic of what has to be this movie's big drawback by and Lodge itself is happy to be a pretty close feminist of the animated version. Maybe such a tentative turn from good guy to self-absorbed works outside of live action, but here it is just reminds you that there are only so many changes that the filmmaker are willing to make, and none that really led by any true socks. That's disappointing here because especially with the Genie in play, the possibilities for new fantastic points of view are endless. The fact that most of the story's turns remain untouched cannot help feeling like a missed opportunity to explore this vast potential. The one area that does feel like a clear improvement over the 1992 version is the characterization of Naomi Jasmine to the point where at times the movie felt like it's more invested in a story than Aladdin. The princess feels more three-dimensional, more not intended, not apologized for, and she is given far more investing ambition this time around. Scott gives the character a dignity and drive that makes it easier to root for than that the poor old AI bot Jasmine and Genie newly fleshed out arc are welcome addition, but they do draw attention to how predictable and dated Aladdin's story feels by comparison. The supporting cast is hit or missed, while Nassim Pedrad and Billy McConson's new character end up being relatable for love. Marwan Kenzari take on Jafar is a letdown, aside from a quick exchange about heading second place. It's never very clear when Jafar is scheming for the Sultan throne, other than the fact that he is just generally evil. The animated Jafar had clear, whitish and darkness to him, but Kenzari trued that in for a creepy, ill-defined lust for power that never really exists. But he is the one standing in Aladdin and Jasmine way and dagged in, we want them to be together. Fan will be glad to know that Aladdin catalog of great songs are well represented here. The one jump ahead proves to be a bit of a misfire early on, featuring a heavy emphasis on case and action that doesn't quite work. The rest of the numbers are a good time. Friend Like Me is the movie that its visual speak and probably the closest the movie gets to recreating the magic of the animated film. One of the most pleasant surprises on the soundtrack is the new number written by Benj Basic and Justin Paul, Speechless. Scott, an able singer and Speechless, is a great showcase for the talent. The song will not win any awards for stability, but in the context of Jasmine's story, it really works. On the visual front, Aladdin rarely disappoints. Agrabah feels vibrant and alive, most of all during Princess Ali. A grand interest and the starting deserts is beautifully shot. The Cave of Wonder sequence in practical shows of Guy Ritchie's skill at crafting an action set piece and everything from the muscular and Guy Ritchie's skill at danger of that scene down to Aladdin parkouring all over Agrabah really move with great pace under his eyes. Aladdin is about as safe as adaptation as we have seen Disney put out, which is a bit disappointing considering that most of what it adds to the story works pretty well. More interesting arc of Jasmine and the Genie are welcome, but more often than not, Aladdin just wants to play the hits. The familiar storyboards feel undercooked in live action, something not helped by actors in the lead role, hero and villain roles that tend to get outshined by their peers. While 2019 Aladdin may not be a whole new world, thanks to some great supporting performance and a dazzling Agrabah, it is one worth revisiting. 2019 Aladdin remake of Aladdin makes several changes to the story originally represented in the 1992 animated film, including a very different ending to what some will expect. The 2019 reimagining from director Guy Ritchie is the latest live-action adaptation to come from Disney, following the successful retelling of Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, and the Jungle Book. It typical Disney style, they stayed very close to the beloved original movies but also attempt to fix, flesh out, and update certain aspects. This is the case with Aladdin too. It includes iconic moments and songs while also adding to the backstories of Aladdin and Jasmine and making the ending its own. The original animated film ends with Aladdin tricking Jafar to become a genie, Aladdin freeing Genie, and the laws as Agrabah changed to Aladdin and Jasmine could be marriage.